a great time here. Okay. Thank you so much to FBN production team for making this show possible. They're always supporting, encouraging. Thank you so much, and my viewers as well. All right, so we are gonna dive in and now we apologize for the delay. And so I'm not here alone today. I'm here with my special guest, and at this juncture, I would like to introduce them. I have here with me Mr. Nelson. Hello, Mr.
Hi,
Nelson. You're welcome.
thanks for having me, Miranda.
Thank you for joining. And Kezia Boateng.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, guys. Okay. Thank you, Nancy and Renee, giving us some nice comments in here. So you're looking sweet. Thank you. Okay, so let's dive right into this. It's been a while since we talked about and defined, established what identity and find our identity. Anyways, if you missed that, the video is in the FBN videos. We'll just type walk with God identity. You'll find it. We had a great time here. We learned a lot of information was shared out there. So if you missed it, please, you can go back and watch. To my guest here today, how would you define identity, Mr. Harrison?
Miranda, for having me, and thank you all for making it a point to join us for this very important discussion. I know that a while back on the Time of Reflection show, some part of the discussion went into what we are discussing, which is identity and all those things. So simply, I think that identity is just your self-image or your self-concept. So, what do you make of yourself? It's an individual thing. But then, most importantly, I think that identity, when we just explain it as self-image and self-concept and leave it there, it sounds a little bit vague in the ears of people. And so, simply, your identity is the answer or the honest answer to two important questions. One is, who am I right now? And the second is, who do I see my future self to be? And then, so if you're able to answer these two important questions and you realize that you have the values you have right now, as in answering who I am, is consistent, or it's going to lead you to who you see your future self to be, then you have a solid identity. Otherwise, you may have some problems that I believe we may be talking about later. So, who am I and who do I see my future self to be? That is identity.
So much. Who am I and who do I see my future self to be? Okay, Kezia, identity. How would you?
I think Mr. Harrison kind of just said it all. Basically, yeah, like who you are, and we all create our own identities, and sometimes you don't know how to like navigate your life, and you don't realize like who you are to like a certain point, and your identity it always changes. So it is basically who you are, but at that moment it might be different. So it can always change. So that's how I view it.
So Kezia is saying that your identity is at that moment and it can change. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now let's move on. So we've already identity is so Mr. Harrison said, I like that. Said who you are right now. Who do you see yourself to be in the field? So how would you define identity crisis? Our main topic here, identity. Mr. Harrison.
Wow. Yeah, a very important question there. You know, the whole issue about identity, earlier in the discussion, like I talked about, they were talking about purpose. Um, so if you know your purpose in life, that is more or less something that is going to shape your identity. So it's more of, yeah, the values that you develop now that determine the choices that you make. So you have certain values. Let's say you're a Christian, you believe in God, you don't want to do A, B, C, or D. These are your values, and it becomes your identity, and they shape the decisions that you are going to make to kind of take you to that overall purpose. And so a crisis comes in when there is uncertainty between uh, who you are, like knowing yourself, as in, okay, at this point, you ask yourself and you cannot define, let's say, certain values, say that, well, this is who Nana Harrison is, then you are in crisis. So that state or that period of confusion, and trust me, every human being goes through this stage. Unfortunately, some may not even be aware that they are in a period of an identity crisis, but it will happen at some point in your life. Mostly, well, I don't want to jump the gun, but yeah, like I said. So when you see that things are not on course, when I define identity, I did mention who am I, who do I see my future self to be. So when you realize that who I am at a particular point in time, like the snapshot, is not a reflection of or going to help you to get to who your future self is supposed to be, then you have that crisis. So it's like you are in a state of confusion. You don't know what exactly you are doing. Like, for example, you saw yourself maybe as your identity, you see yourself as somebody who is taking care of people as patients, caring for them, showing them the love of God and all that. And you find yourself maybe sometime later realize that, oh, at this point in time, what am I doing? And who am I now? Oh, I'm way off. Now I'm into art or something else. Then you now realize that there is incongruence between who you are and who your future self is supposed to be. And so that becomes a crisis that you need to resolve. So it's always about your goals and your values. Whenever there is a mismatch between the goals and the values that you have at present, then you find yourself in that crisis that we call identity crisis. So that is the little way that I'll explain what identity crisis is.
I definitely agree to that. So when there is a mismatch between your goals and values where you are now, this definition I was when I was researching about this, said a chaotic concept self wherein one's role in life appears to be an insoluble dilemma, often by isolation, withdrawal, rebellion, and extremism, which is basically and what Mr. Harrison just explained in simple terms to us. So, Kezia, how would you
Hmm.
define identity crisis?
Um, well, I don't think I've been through it yet, but when I think of identity crisis, I think of like, older people, because, not really older people, but like youth in college and like growing up, because, at that point, like you're now getting your life together, trying to figure out like what you're gonna do and stuff like that. So like identity crisis be for me at least, it's more like um trying to find your career in a way, trying to navigate through life, like what am I gonna do next type thing. Like you just graduated from college, like what's next? You got a job. What's next? You're married and have 4 kids. What's next? Like I feel like it's always like the next step of like what to do with your life and how you wanna continue with what you're doing and yeah.
Basically, so when you get to this turning point in your life and like you're stuck and you don't know where ago. Oh, so I think Mr. Harrison wanted to go there a little bit, but he wanted to wait for me to ask first. So this term is associated with like adolescence, like oh, Erickson's psychosocial his or whatever that he made for the stages that identity versus role confusion was associated like adolescence. So I think most people like think the crisis only happens when you're teens. Do you think that this is true, or it can also happen as you're growing up, or even the life, Mr. Harrison?
Identity crisis is not
Mm-hmm.
only in adolescence.
Okay.
Like Kezia said, you even find it more when
Mm-hmm.
people are growing up. If
Right.
you've heard anything about midlife crisis,
Mm-hmm.
people talk about midlife crisis a lot, and that's clearly an identity crisis.
It's a
So
crisis.
you get
Mm-hmm.
to this 40s to 50s, 60s, and then you now go back to reflect who was I supposed to be? And then you kind of reconcile that to who you are right now. And that is
Mm-hmm.
like the terrible place for people to be, especially if who they wanted to be is not consistent with the person that they've turned out to become. And so, in as much as we know that it's very prevalent in adolescents, I think that at least for everybody, if you don't even encounter that in adolescence, when you get to your 40s, you are definitely going to hit that place where you begin to question yourself, am I really on the right track? And so the moment you begin to ask yourself those questions, you should know that it is that crisis. Now, the problem is when we talk about this, the reason why people might want to disassociate themselves from it is probably because they only see it in the negative light, at least because of the word crisis. But it's not necessarily negative or something evil. It is just a place or a situation in which you find yourself where you begin to question who you have become and whether it is consistent with who you are going to be. So, even as a Christian, when you find yourself in a place where you are asking yourself, what I'm doing, is it consistent with what God expects me to do? You are in that place of an identity crisis because there is uncertainty. And so you need to reassure yourself that you're on the right track. Or maybe if you are not, then you make amends and do whatever you need to do to get on the right track. So it's not limited to just adolescents. But it can be very terrible for people who are older because then you don't have a lot of hope. If you are an adolescent, you have all the room to make the mistakes and then to correct them. But when you have hit, let's say, 50, and you think that, well, I'm going to go on retirement in the next 10 years, and you haven't made in much with your life, it could be very devastating. And so, yeah, that is what I would say. It's definitely not only for adults.
And I definitely agree to that. Thank you, Kezia. What do you think? Hmm.
Um, like I agree with what he was saying too, but then again, like sometimes I don't want to like downplay the fact that it's not a real thing, but things happen in life, and then it's true that when you get to like 50 and all of that, you're looking back like, man, like I came this far and I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that, but you can somehow control it, but at the same time, I feel like you can't because I don't know. I personally, I've seen some things. I'm just like, how did I mess up in this year? Like where I am now, maybe I am going to I'm probably going through identity crisis myself. But there's some stuff like I've done like when I was 16, 15. I'm like, if I didn't do this or if I did do that, would I be here today? Like, would I be doing this and that? So it goes back, it goes hand in hand. Like, it depends. So it could start as little as probably in your teenage years going up, and it is when you're growing up, but it all, it also depends on you and your choices. But at the same time, I do feel like some circumstances are uncontrollable. So it just goes both ways. Yeah.
Thank you. So you mentioned, yeah, the word circumstances. So what are some causes of identity crisis? What would cause does that to a person's life? Mr. Harrison.
Well, there are so many things that would cause somebody to be in that place.
Mm,
The first is more of, I'll call it pressure. Pressure from family, from friends,
mm,
from the society. It all, you have your own purpose, and then your family also has their own kind of ambition for who you're supposed to be or their expectations, and then you make friends and they also go in a particular direction, and then you are part of a church. The church is also expecting A, B, C, or D from you, even your neighbors. So like the whole environment, everybody is pushing you in a direction they deem fit, and you have to battle that out with the purpose or where you yourself you are also headed. And unfortunately, sometimes um, all of these, if you are fortunate, and then your family and your friends and your society are all pulling you in the same direction as you want to go, oh, then glory be to God. You are among the few fortunate ones. But a lot of the times, what we find is that your parents are expecting one thing, your friends are also pushing you down a particular path, and then the society is also having their own expectations of who you are supposed to be. And so when you put all of those things, one is going north, another is going the west, another is going east, and you yourself, you're going south. And so at that point, you become confused. And it's like, okay, is that about going with what my parents are saying, or is it what my friends are saying, or is it what the society is saying? And that is the point where many people fall under peer pressure or peer influence. So when you get to that stage and you are not very resolute, then you might resonate more with the contribution or the effect that your friends are having on you, because they are always pulling you along, and as a result, you might then find yourself doing things the way your friends are doing. That's why they say, like, show me your friend, I'll show you who you are. So it's like technically by joining a particular group of people, he said, bad company corrupts good morals. And so when you are part of a particular group of people, you lose your values. And that is your sense of self, your identity. And so that is from friends, your parents, and all that. So that is more of the pressure. And then we also have like events in life. So apart from all these pressures, we're also dealing with events such as maybe you entered into a relationship, you love this gentleman so much that you may have to, you want to bend your values to fit into his world, or you also love this lady so much that you want to be flexible to be able to accommodate all like her values and all those things. And so sometimes you can get lost in that, in marriage, in childbirth, you can get lost. And I know people who gave birth, and all of a sudden they started asking themselves, I didn't know I could shout this much, you know. And it's like, is this who I am? It could be your job. You could have started a new job, and then when you went into that workplace, there is this whole new culture. They have this new value system that you are not really used to. And so these are all things that come in. It could be the loss of a loved one. There are people whose father or maybe a loved one dies, and that is a make or break for them. Their whole life like comes to a standstill. And so you have dealing with the pressures, and then also with life events. And that is where Kezia talked about the fact that life happens. Life happens. But the fact is that even when life happens, the circumstance is not supposed to dictate or to change the course for you unless you are on the wrong track. So if you are doing the right thing, if you are on the right track, and then something happens, life happens. But the thing that happens in life is not enough to change your identity if you are resolute. So the moment you find yourself questioning and finding out, oh, is there another way I could do this? Am I really even doing the right thing and all that? Looking for other possibilities out there, then you realize that no, you are really in an identity situation that you need to uh, reevaluate and take the necessary steps. All right. Yeah.
Yes, yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so Professor Linda said identity crisis is a time of intensive analysis and exploration of different ways, okay, of looking at yourself. Yeah, I believe that one of the causes of identity crisis is life, or besides the life events that happen in life. Maybe you're just living life and one day you were just going to a physical therapy or just a checkup um, with your annual physicals, and then you just got diagnosed with some disease or something else. That's a whole crazy. Now you're thinking, what do I do? Your whole life is supposed to change. You're supposed to be modifying your diet, your health, your this, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot. Marriage change it. Childbirth, like Mr. Harrison mentioned, the loss of a loved one, a whole lot of time, we get stuck in life thinking about, so what next do I do next? And there are like ways to go about it, which we'll get there. I will chance to also explain what she thinks that causes identity crisis.
So going back to like what Mr. Harrison was saying, it does have a lot to do with like life events, especially like the big ones, or like even for like us young ones, like going to college and stuff like that. That could change like dramatically because it's a new setting and you don't really know what you're doing. I mean, for those that let's say you want to become a nurse, you go to college, you're thinking you're gonna do nursing, but then you take another course that you really like, and all of a sudden you don't want to be a nurse no more. Like you want to be, let's say, a teacher, like how I want to be. So like it all goes hand in hand because I did go into school thinking I wanted to like do accounting and business, but then after like taking a few classes, I ended up wanting to become a teacher. Like I enjoyed teaching more. So over in the process, I was like, but if I change my major now, would I graduate on time? All these questions start popping up and everything. And then, like using myself as an example, my second semester, I did fail a few classes, right? Failed dramatically. So now I'm thinking like, am I gonna finish school? If I don't finish school, at that time, that summer, previous summer, I was working at McDonald's. I was like, if I don't finish school, am I gonna become a McDonald's worker because I failed these classes? Like it's a lot that goes into like, you know, who you are and who you think you are and all of that. So in terms of like life happens, it really does happen. And it's up to you to like be strong minded about it. And there's always ways to go around. I feel like there's always a possible way to like fix it, even though some circumstances you can't change, but you can always make it better for yourself. And about like bending vibes and all of that, I'm another thing, peer pressure, another big thing. Um, I kind of fell into peer pressure a little bit when I first started college because you see a lot of things that you're not allowed to do because you grew up in church and how the home and all of that, and you're like very tempted. Like it's up to you to be really strong minded about it and not fall into those temptations because you could easily bend your values. Like people like me, I always say, "Oh, I'm hard headed. I can't be influenced." But if it's right in front of you, like the devil makes stuff look like pretty flowers, and you're gonna want to pick up that flower and touch it. So like there's it all goes hand in hand, and it's up to you to like be strong and hold to yourself and hold to your values and know what is right or wrong. And you don't want to look back and be like, man, I did this and end up doing something that you weren't supposed to do. And you don't want to bend your values or change who you are just because somebody else is doing it and that's not who you are. So that's what I'd say.
Yes, thank you so much for touching on that. One reason why we love you on here is because you're very honest.
Thank you.
Yeah, not everyone can use their failure story to, but thank you. That was very, very
Mhm.
true. Yeah. So these are the things that can cause identity crisis. Like Mr. Harrison said, you might be going through one and you wouldn't even know.
Right.
Oh, it's not every crisis has like its effects. So some of them you wouldn't really see, but you're going. But when once you find yourself questioning yourself about some situations, about some things, I'm like, can I do this? Can I do this? Am I sure that I can move on with this life? These are all things that defines identity crisis. But like Jesus said, there are ways to go about it. There are ways that you can handle it, and we will be diving into that right now. I would like Mr. Harrison to start off with this on that. How do we handle this when it happens?
Well, there is a medical side to identity crisis. That's when it escalates into anxiety, depression, and those things. You might need to see like a doctor so that they will help you out. I know a friend when we were in college, he got depressed, so he had to go see a doctor and he was on some medication. And I was kind of trying to be a support for him a lot of the time to go navigate that new path. So there is the medical side to that. There is also the psychological where you can see a psychotherapist or yeah, simply a therapist. Those people are able to lead you into answering certain important questions that will help you to rediscover yourself. So if you've gotten to that point, then those become very, very necessary. Like you realize that the thing is really messing you up. You are so down. You're stressed out. It's you're getting depressed. You might want to see a therapist and a doctor to help you medically. Um, but then, let's say if yours is on a lighter note, like many people would find themselves in, then it is very important that you don't let it escalate to that point where you would need to seek for medical attention. And on that note, you need to take some important steps, like 3 steps, I would say. The first will be to kind of explore your own beliefs, your goals, your interests. So, first of all, you did say that, well, okay, I want to become like, let me use Kezia as an example. Maybe you wanted to go into business or to finance and all that, and then you get to that point where you are finding new interest. You need to go back to the drawing board and then re-examine yourself and these new beliefs. Because myself, um, I had to make a switch at some point in my life, uh, switching all the way from science into business. It's a decision that I had to make, and you have to sit down and then reevaluate yourself, your environment, and then sometimes reevaluate the goal that is ahead of you. Because sometimes when you are very young, you might think that this is what I want to do because you haven't seen enough things. Like as you get exposed to so many things, you are really kind of putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a situation to know and to do more and to do better. So I think that the on even on that part, if you are a parent and you have children, especially when they get into the adolescence, it is very necessary to expose them. Don't keep them in the room. Hey, don't go out. Don't do this. No, take them out. Let them go and see the things that are out there. Because your definition for them is not God's definition for their lives. You are not God. So make sure that they are exploring new things. Of course, just give them the instruction that they need to do. My father, growing up, would tell you this story. It says a king and his son. the son's friends come to the house and they pray, they play together, and then they'll do all manner of stuff. And then one day the prince goes to the father and tells him that, well, today I want to go out with my friends to play. And the king tells the son that, okay, son, I don't have a problem with you going out there to play. But then when you go out there playing, make sure you don't forget that you are a prince. So at least keep the values in the children, but expose them. Take them to places. If it is different occupations, expose them. Let them know what being a doctor is about, what being a nurse is about. Don't use your colonial thinking to think that, whoa, well, when we were growing up, all we knew is you either become a doctor or a nurse, and so that's what my son is supposed to be. No, expose. So that is very important. If you did not get that exposure to, then you might also want to kind of finding yourself in this situation like Kezia. If I were Kezia at that point, I would not conclude that maybe I'm so good at teaching. It might not necessarily be that case. It might just be that I need a little more exposure. So I would explore other alternatives in the field to understand what exactly is happening. Okay, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Okay, even in the field in which I am, is there a way that I can impact knowledge? Or you might find something else also interesting. So at the end of the day, you put all of those things in perspective, and that would shape the new focus that you take. Otherwise, well, you find that now I love teaching, and then tomorrow you go and do something else, and you realize, oh, maybe it wasn't really teaching, but it was just about coaching people or being, let's say, an empowerment advisor or something. So you might want to explore further before you make certain some of those decisions. So once you have gone back to reevaluate where you find yourself, how did I get here, and what is the way forward? Now you have to make adjustments. So if in your previous goal you had to take, let's say, science and that and that and that, in my case, I had gone through first degree with my biology and chemistry major. But then when I completed, I just realized that no, I need to make adjustments. I need to move. And so that adjustment phase, it might not be easy. You have to maybe study certain things, realign yourself in certain ways, and then that will help you. And then the third thing would be to get support. You may not be able to do all these things by yourself. Two heads are better than one. So, in as much as you want to do all these things, you also need the support of your friends, your family. And so, it's very important that you surround yourself with people who believe in you, or even if they don't believe in you, you have to make them believe in you. Because when you get to this point, you will need some word of encouragement from them. Come on, no matter how hard-headed you think you may be, no matter how encouraged and motivated you think you might be, there will always come a time where you will need somebody to tell you it is well. Just relax. I'm here for you. It doesn't matter. When you accept that help, it doesn't make you weak. And so sometimes a lot of people will keep all of these things in them. They will not express, they will not share with the people that surround them, the people they love. And so it gets to the point where they can no longer deal with it. And then depression sets in. By the time you realize the person is committing suicide because they did not talk. It might not be a big deal. You might say that, oh, this is nothing. But it's always better to have people you can rely on. If it is your parents, open up to them. Well, this is the point in which I find myself. And what do you think? These are the decisions I'm trying to make. Let them also look at it from a different perspective and be the source of emotional support and physical support. Sometimes you might even need finances to make the adjustments that you need. And so you may not want to travel solo. You need people. And so these are some of the ways that we can very well deal with the issue of identity crisis.
Yes. Oh my God. You have said it all. Well, I'm gonna go back a little, but let me touch on this first. The fact that you said you might, the most motivator of yourself, or I call myself like another name I give is like determination, because I'm very determined. Everybody around me can say that. Like I must like do it yourself, but like these for the past 2 weeks or something, oh, I've been like so stressed, highly stressed from school, especially some of my professors. They're being just, but yeah. So the last time I was just there, and I called my roommate like, "Hey, where are you? Like, I need a hug. Right? I need someone to like, you know, just I just couldn't keep all that in me anymore. So I like you bring that up because if you try to be like, oh, I'm tough, I don't need anyone. You do need, honey, sweetie, watching me. You do need somebody to like talk to. You do need somebody to like that stress off of you because it piles up, and when it piles up to get to that point, and you just withdraw yourself from everybody. Depression sets in. It's bad. So you do, but yeah. So identity crisis when it happens, get help, get support. Um, that's also what can also be thinking about these stuff and then make a decision. Make people help you. Talk to your teacher, your dad, someone that your mentor or somebody, and let them help you on how to go about. Very, very important. But Mr. Harrison, you talked about exposure. You said you should allow their children to like, not be at home all the time. They should allow them to go out and expose. Look at how this world is going these days. And these little ones, I'm going to touch on a very sensitive topic right now, the gay and the lesbianism. And those are all parts of things that they can attract or call to themselves when you give them exposure. So with the exposure that you're talking about, are you going to like give them a limit to that or what? Because as a Christian, this is a Christian, so as a Christian, we into that.
Yeah, I really do. I understand that. You see, Solomon said that train up a child the way he should grow, and when they grow, they will not depart from it. You see, a lot of the problems that we have is that we try to play God. As a parent, I feel it is my responsibility to make sure that this child is doing the right thing at all costs. No, that thing is guaranteed. So yours is to make sure that you train them with the right values. And then you pray that God watches over them. Because you know what? No matter what you do, you cannot keep that child of yours in your house forever. At least there will come a time they will get married. So even if you don't expose them, what happens when they get married and they get out there? I'll tell you, I was talking to a friend who was saying that he had a colleague at work who is married. And as at now, he's really maltreating the wife. Why? Because he is now doing a lot of teenage stuff that he didn't get to do when he was a teenager. So, like he was a so when he got to this point and he now got exposed to it, he's now feeling like, oh, this is the time to live that life that I didn't get a chance to live. And if we find a lot of problems, sometimes it is like that. See, if you train up your child well, and you pray for them, you keep them in your prayer, and you are always there for them, advising them. Of course, they will make mistakes, but they will still turn out well. It doesn't matter. Even if for a moment, a period, they sway off and they start doing all sorts of nonsense. I tell you, because you are you keep on praying for them and you keep on supporting them and you keep on helping them, they will always find their way back to God. The prodigal son went there, he didn't stay. At a point, the money will get finished. They will come back and look for the father. So if you have laid the foundation, yes, if you have laid that foundation, you must be able to trust God to be with them. As you are on campuses, your parents are not there with you. So at this point, what can they do? They can only pray for you that God, at least the values they have instilled in you when you were with them, God will help you so that the Holy Spirit will continue to guide you and to lead you. So that even when you make a mistake, that's why the Holy Spirit is there to bring us back to the providential way. So we should stop playing God. You can't. When you do that, every day you have problems. You have problems. But let the children know. If it is about gay and whatever, explain it to them. See, instead of letting your kids going out there to learn it from their friends who will not explain it well, you do the explanation in the house. If it is about sex, talk to them about sex right in the house. At least you will be able to explain it in a better way so that they will know the negatives and the positives. But when they go out there at the mercy of their friends, the friends, they themselves, they're also exploring themselves. And maybe they did not have even God-fearing parents. So yours is to make sure that you are opening up to the children. Don't go and sit down and say that, oh, this thing is evil, so in my house we won't talk about it. You are setting yourself up for distraction. That child, then, when they go and find it, sometime in the future they will bring you shame. So make sure that you are addressing that issue right now. Talk about it, and then let them go out. When they go, they know that this is what my parents have told me. So when their friends come in, it's not news. It's like a child whose parents have taken them to a club before. Okay, you want to see a club. That's how a club looks like. See all the nasty things people are smoking, and these people, some of them end up here, there, that. When this person goes out, do you really think that their friends can entice them that, oh, let's go and do all these kind of stuff? No, it will be difficult to expose such a person. So you must take that lead and active role to make the child know what they need to know, especially the things you don't want them to know. Let them know.
Thank you so much. It is very, very important. But I think also like it's in our culture is like you do that stuff, you're the bad parents. That's how it's like built up. But it's really, really your responsibility because Auntie Renee said they will go to college. Your children will go to college. You're not gonna keep them forever. Like, it doesn't happen that way. You might do all your best, try like, oh my God, yes, I made my child is not doing this. Will go to college. So and it's not about you being strict because when you do that and they go and they have that freedom, that's it for them. That's it for them. But when you're flexible, you are there's this I don't know if it's like also not they have a name parents and not authoritative that you dictate for them everything you do, but that one you give them, hey, okay, Dad, I've allowed you to go outside, but please make sure you come back home by 10, or let me know when you're coming and text me what's going on. Not just say no, you won't go out. Don't say that. So there's a lot of ways that you can really, really go about it. I think it's time that we made like a conference for our our colonial or those colonial still think colonial thinking minded parents. There's certain a lot of ways that they can really go about it, and like I like the way I think everybody on here I got to say, teach them the good values, tell them the right values. Yep. Do not try to play God. Once that you have established that foundation and you keep praying for them, God is going to, keep them safe. God is going to protect them. He's still going to remind them. And even if they turn away or things are just out of place, they're really going to come back. Thank you so much for touching this point. Exactly. Auntie Esa said, Miranda, you mean allow them to explore but set boundaries? Yeah. Yep. I think setting boundaries is important because if you just leave them too much, there's a problem. but you leave them, but set boundaries. Okay, yeah. So how, and then we went off a little, but how can you summarize for us how we can handle identity crisis when it happens?
Well, I think going back to what Mr. Harrison was saying, like he basically said everything. And I don't
Everything.
want to touch upon the parent thing because I was listening to him, I was like just agreeing so hard because I mean I'm not trying to blame my parents, but sometimes like we do spend most of our life with our parents, so I believe they're like 95% of our identity because they're if you have Ghanaian parents, Jamaican parents, whatever parents you have, like whatever they do, you're most likely to do it too. And also we do go to like if you don't grow up in like a certain country, everything like here we're more free, but our parents don't let us do a lot of things. So like it all, that's also a part of it because the exposure part, especially if you're not exposed to new things, like how he was saying, like the how I wanted to be a teacher, but like there's other ways I could go around it too. If you're not exposed to that stuff, you're not gonna know. So it just all goes hand in hand, and it all goes back to culture and your background, where you come from. But then you develop as you go out and find out these things. You develop your own identity, and you just don't forget what your parents have taught you if they taught you well. So like Mr. Harrison said it all, and I don't want to, push it because I might say some things I'm not supposed to. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate that whole response. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, Mr. Harrison, he just
It
touched
was
on everything.
beautiful.
It's like everything in just one shot, take it. And
Like
I'm happy that
seriously.
this video is there to always go back on it. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so I really hope we have learned a lot from today because I feel like this is such an important topic, identity crisis. Once again, like Mr. Harrison, it happens to everyone. It's not just adolescent and not just midlife crisis. It happens, and sometimes you might not even know, but you're in there. So we've showed you how to know if it's happening. Some questions that you begin to ask yourself: how to go about it. What are some causes? And just understand that you're not alone going through that. There are other people going through it as well. So if you feel like it's too much for you, just definitely seek help. But it's not always a bad. Sometimes it's good. It helps you to direct you to the right. So I'm glad this discussion was able to take place. And as I said, we need parent-children conference one day. We do. That would be a chaos, but yes, we do. We need to. Okay. But thank you all so much for joining us today and watching with us. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. on Gospel City, right here on Faith Broadcasters Network. Linda, our host, talking about maintaining healthy boundaries in relationship with Pastor Nee Techi. So please don't miss it. 6 p.m. sharp, it will be starting. So miss it. Maintaining healthy boundaries in relationship. It's so important. We need to know. So please join us tomorrow and let's have a great discussion here. Thank you once again, you all, for joining us today. I really hope if you do, please, if you did, share this video to your friends and family. It's just that you have to click. You don't have to pay no money, no cents. So please share, okay? Oh, Nari said identity crisis can happen when we don't allow a cycle to run its course, but to live in it. Mm, yes, that is very true. But yes, thank you all, and as FBN production team, thank you, and God bless you for making this show possible. Um, my guest for Harrison, thank you so much. You touched on every single point that was needed to be touched on. God bless you, and thank you for honoring my invitation. Kezia, thank you so much. I appreciate you, sis. God bless you. Pastor Linda, Pastor Francis, Auntie Ursula, Norris, Auntie Renee. Bless you all. And I will see you guys same time next week, still on identity, but identity in Christ. Yes, identity in Christ. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be informative. basis so you miss out. I'll see you same time next week. Bye, guys.